So without further ado, let's get into the top 12 free agents for 2019. And there are a ton of them, including a lot of players whose names start with the letter K. But we're not going to start with one of those guys. We're going to start with Tobias Harris, a name after my own namesake. Guy, I hated on Tobias Harris a lot when he turned down the $80 million extension from the Clippers to possibly sign a max deal. And I still don't think he's going to get a max contract. I really don't. I just don't know how the Clippers could possibly, convince themselves that Tobias Harris, who's never averaged 20 points a game, is going to end up being a max player in the NBA today. A max contract, by the way, for Tobias Harris next year with the Clippers is like $170 million. You're going to pay Tobias Harris $170 million? Really? Really? You're going to pay him that much money? That's a lot of money to give to Tobias Harris. That really is. That's a ton of money to put on a guy who, if you give Tobias Harris that much money, you're basically saying, hey, you're the face of our franchise. Do you want Tobias Harris to be the face of your franchise? I personally don't. I think Tobias Harris, in terms of what his projected contract is going to be, I think overall the money that he ends up getting is going to be very interesting. I say 4 years, $115 million. I still think that's a lot, but this is the modern day NBA. Tobias Harris is going to get over $100 million. That's just how it goes. He was great with the Clippers last year, averaging about 19 points per game. I think this year is their primary score. He's going to put up a little bit over 20 and get over $100 million. Let's go to our next free agent. It's Khris Middleton, who came in as the number 10 shooting guard in the NBA on our list. He's set to make a big-time jump this year. He really is. The offense is supposed to run through him and Giannis. Mike Budenholzer is here. I think Budenholzer is going to do some great work with Khris Middleton and with Giannis. We saw Middleton in last year's playoffs really take control as the secondary option on the Bucks, especially during the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. So I think if he doesn't end up staying with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think the Chicago Bulls would be a great spot for Khris Middleton. I think he would give them that pure outside shooter that they need at either the shooting guard or the small forward position. I know that they have, they do have Zach LaVine at the 2, but Khris Middleton is long enough that he can play the 3. The dude is 6'8", playing the shooting guard position, so he can really play anywhere on the wing. So if he doesn't end up getting re-signed by the Bucks, which I want to point out, I expect him to be back with the Bucks, I think the Chicago Bulls will be a team that'll be in the hunt for Khris Middleton. Let's get into our next guy here. It is Marc Gasol, a guy who hasn't really aged too well in the NBA, going into his age 34 season. He's got a player option for 2019 for $25.5 million. I think he's going to pick up that player option. I think eventually that's what he's going to stick with. There just doesn't really make a lot of sense for Marc Gasol to go to another team. He's not going to get more than $25.5 million entering the age 34 season, going into the last couple years of his career. He's not DeAndre Jordan. Like, DeAndre Jordan is probably going to make $20 million a year over the next 3 years of his career. But for now with Marc Gasol, I think his best interest is simply staying with the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, let's go to our next free agent in 2019. It's DeMarcus Cousins, who's going to be looking for the max heading into next offseason. Now, we got a lot to figure out with DeMarcus Cousins. We have a ton to figure out because we just simply do not know what he's going to be when he comes back. Because when healthy and when at his finest, DeMarcus Cousins is the best center in basketball. Just plain and simple, he is. There's no one that can put up the kind of offensive stats that DeMarcus Cousins can put at the center spot. It's just a torn Achilles for a 7-foot guy is maybe the worst possible injury that you could end up with. Seriously, it's one of the worst injuries for any big men down low. It's ruined plenty of careers. The NBA history books are littered with centers whose careers have been ended by Achilles injuries. So he's going to be looking for the max. He's got to hope that he shows up in the playoffs this year for the Golden State Warriors. I think he'll end up with the max. I think that some team is just going to end up giving it to him. I think the Mavericks would be a good landing spot for him as well. So watch out for Boogie Cousins going into 2019. Let's get into our next free agent here. I just talked about him before. It's DeAndre Jordan. I wonder what kind of contract DeAndre is going to get. So we got a $22 million deal with the Mavericks this year. Obviously, it's because he had a $24.1 million player option with the Clippers that he ended up turning down. And they basically gave him the same amount of money that he would have made under, tax laws and whatever. So $22 mil for DeMarcus Cousins, for DeAndre Jordan this year, it's a good amount of money going to his age 30 season. I just wonder how many more years of elite basketball does someone like DeAndre Jordan have left? I'm a little bit worried that his game isn't going to age very well. He doesn't shoot. It's based a lot on his physicality down low. Now, if JaVale McGee can extend his career until he's 33, 34, then I'm sure DeAndre Jordan can do it as well. It just remains to be seen whether or not he actually can maintain that skill set. So I think he could be looking for a 2 to 3 year deal of about $20 million. I think him staying in Dallas would be a great move for him, but them not signing to a long-term deal is indicative to me that they just don't want to pay him that much money. Let's go to our next guy here. It is Kemba Walker. I love Kemba Walker. You guys know my feelings about Kemba Walker, one of the 10 best point guards in all of basketball, one of the most underrated players in the NBA. The fact that he was even mentioned in trade rumors this year was remarkable to me. I can't believe that the Hornets were even thinking about trading this guy. He's the best player on their entire team, and they need to start paying him as such. He's getting paid $12 million this year. That's it. Give him the max deal, give him the 5-year max going into next season, and that's all you have to worry about. It'll keep him in Charlotte throughout his prime. By the time he hits 34 years old, it'll be over, and you'll be able to sign him to maybe a backup point guard deal like we've seen the likes of Devin Harris sign over the past decade, what it seems like. So Kemba Walker on our list for the top free agents in 2019. Let's go to our next guy. It's Al Horford, who was a player option for $30.1 million in 2019. Yeah. Can't really think that Al Horford, at the age of 33 years old, is going to turn down $30.1 million, especially on a team like the Boston Celtics, who are going to be one of the 3 best, if not maybe the 2nd best team in all of basketball going into this season. They're my best team in the Eastern Conference. I have them winning 60 games this year. And Al Horford is going to be a huge part of that. He really is. Like, there's no reason why Al Horford should not be continued to be considered one of the best centers in the NBA. So Al Horford, for me, I think he'll pick up that player option and stay with the Boston Celtics. Let's go to our next guy, Jimmy Butler. Now, already turned down a 4-year, $110 million extension from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Possible teams for him next year, if you see at the bottom of your screen, I don't have the Timberwolves as a team. I think he's going to leave Minnesota. I think he wants to go to a big market like New York, or obviously the Brooklyn Nets can be considered New York as well. The Knicks and the Nets have had way too much connection to Jimmy Butler in order for this to just be something we can ignore now. I think Jimmy Butler wants to go back to a big market. I don't think the Lakers have a spot for him. So if you're looking for other big markets where he could end up going, New York is really the last possible place that he could go in order to get the big-time deal in a big-time market that he's looking for. And I think the Knicks are going to have a lot of mutual interest as well. They don't really have a long-term option at the shooting guard position right now. They drafted Kevin Knox. They have Kristaps. They drafted Frankie Smokes, who projects more as a good point guard. So we'll see what happens with Jimmy Butler going forward. I just think that he's going to end up in New York somehow. Let's go to our next guy. Our first K, or I guess we had Kemba. So another guy with the first name of K, it's Klay Thompson, who it really depends on where he goes based off of how much money he wants. Because if he's willing to take a pay cut, he's absolutely going to stay with the Warriors. I'm not sure if he's going to end up, I don't know how much money Klay Thompson is going to end up with, because he has said multiple times that he's okay taking a pay cut to stay with the Warriors, but now we have all these random sources, might be fake news, saying that Klay Thompson wants a max deal, which would go against everything he has said in the past. So I personally think he's going to end up staying with the Warriors. I think the connections between him and the Lakers are a little bit overblown. So for now, I think it's more likely than not that Klay Thompson stays with the Golden State Warriors. Let's go to our next free agent. It's Kyrie Irving. I still think he's going to re-sign with the Celtics. I really do. There's no reason for him not to at this point. Why jump to your 3rd team in 4 years? Why go to the Cavs, spend 2 random years on the best team in the Eastern Conference, and then jump to the Knicks, one of the worst run organizations in all of sports? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, the Cavs are not a well-run organization. The Celtics are a well-run organization, and then he's just going to go to the Knicks, another poorly run organization? Wasn't the reason why he wanted to leave the Cavs is because they were run so poorly and they traded him weirdly? I just don't really understand where Kyrie Irving's head at, and I think he's a much more his decision-making is much more stable than we're giving him credit for. Personally, I think he's going to stay with the Celtics, sign a 2 to 3 year max deal, and then become a free agent again when he hits his age 29, age 30 season, which Oh, look at that. That's exactly what his buddy Kevin Durant did. So I think Kyrie Irving will end up staying with the Boston Celtics. Let's go to our next guy. It's Kawhi Leonard. Is he really going to stay in Toronto? Like, what is the likelihood that Kawhi Leonard stays in Toronto? 10%, 15%, maybe. The likelihood that he goes to LA, probably 80% to 85%. So with Kawhi Leonard and his future in the NBA, it's got to be LA. It's got to be the Lakers. I don't even have the Clippers as a possible team because, like, why would he go to the Clippers over the Lakers? It just doesn't really make a ton of sense overall to me. I think he's going to end up with the Lakers. It has everything he's ever wanted, a star player. He'll be the number 2 guy. He can still, go after championships. So if the Raptors can sell Kawhi Leonard on Toronto and keep him there, that'll be one of the biggest upsets in NBA free agent history. But for now, I think the Lakers are still the most likely team. Our last free agent for 2019, our number 1 guy, it's Kevin Durant. Guys, your guess is as good as mine with what's going to happen with Kevin Durant in free agency this year. I have absolutely no idea because he signs that 1-1 again with the player option next year. Does he go to the Lakers? Does he go to a big market team with the Knicks? Does he stay with the Golden State Warriors? We have no clue where Kevin Durant's head is going to be when it comes to next season. We know that he wanted to be with the Warriors this year, but if he wanted to be with them long term, why only sign a 1-1? Why not do what LeBron did with the Lakers and sign a 4-year contract? For now, I say it's more likely than not he stays with the Warriors, but it's definitely something to keep track of as we go through the rest of the NBA. But that's going to do it for NBA Weekly today. I want to thank Missing and Made one more time. Buy their shirts now at comfortable.af. All of mine are in the wash, so I'm wearing our lovely Chat Sports polo today. Go to comfortable.af again to get the most comfortable dress shirts that you will find anywhere on the internet. That'll do it for me today. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm headed to the beach for a little bit of a relaxing vacation before we really start to get into the thick of NBA training camp. But for now, we'll see ya.